So good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 28th day of April, 2020. Well, it looks like it's going to be a lovely day out here on the high desert. I'm going to get outside and do some things today. I've got California poppy coming up in my strawberry beds, and so I have to go. And it's like I thought, well, okay, rather than taking it out when it was really, really super small, I'll just wait till it gets a little bit bigger, and then I'll transplant it around. Well, that's what I have to do today because you can barely see my strawberries. So, and California poppy is wonderfully medicinal. It's got sedative effects, not to the extent, of course, not to the addictive effects of its cousin, the opium poppy or anything, but California poppy is actually a mild sedative. It's mild enough for children to have it, so it's not something you have to worry about. But it's a lovely plant. It's used to take the whole thing, stems, flowers, all of it. It's used in teas and tinctures. So anyhow, I have to go out there today into the hoop house where my strawberries are. I've got these lovely raised beds where my strawberries are, and I've got to go and start moving those things around. I mean, they literally are covered, and it's at like a 10 by 20 hoop house that it's in. So all strawberry beds. And then on the edges, I'm going to have pole beans. I'm going to put some netting up because we got another cover for it. We lost our cover on it. It tore and we couldn't fix it. And that was a few years ago. So I was just having a living cover. Well, this year we bought another one and we put it on. And so now I'm going to still grow my beans in there, but I can't grow them over the top and have it be a living cover. So I'm going to have to put up some of those white netting you can get for gardens. I'm putting that up all in it. So they'll have some place to climb. Anyway, it'll protect them though, because we're at 3,000 feet above sea level, so gardening's not for the faint of heart around here. So in any event, if this is your first time here, welcome. I do a little chatting, a little talk about astrology for the day, and then we get going on the reading. Moon's still in the first house, Cancer. So if you're an empath, I'll talk to you a little bit right now. Those of us that are empathic have a difficult time when the moon is in Cancer. Because right there, the energies, emotions are in flux. Maybe you're just feeling out of sorts, and you're not, kind of feeling maybe needy, or the whole thing is that others are feeling the same, and so maybe they say something that's insensitive, and so you take the bait, and it's all transitory is my point. And so if we just take a step back and retreat from the chaos of everyone being emotional, then I think we'll do better today. So empaths, be aware, stay in the observation mode instead of absorbing everything. Don't be so quick to look and see if some energy taps you on your shoulder. You don't necessarily have to look at it. So you don't have to save everyone today, just yourself. So anyway, shield if necessary, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Oh my goodness, we went out to the auto parts store to drop off some more stuff to take to the machine shop in the next town over at their other place, their main store, and where they have that, and because we're working, my husband's redoing our tractor. We have a 1939 Ford 9N tractor, and if you think, oh my God, why is he doing that? Trust me, there's parts available for all of it. This stuff doesn't go out of style, and there's nothing like a 1939 Ford 9N tractor when it's running. There's nothing better. So I'm not buying a new tractor. There's no way, not when we have that. We've had it since 1981. It's 81 years old. And when he's done with it, it's going to run like a champ. So I don't know. It's very cool, but we had to take that stuff up there. And we're both in masks and gloves and everything, and I didn't get out of the car. And there was only one other customer in there when he got there. We got there early, and so we were all safe and everything, but you still have to go outside, and then I get home, I take my mask off, and the juniper pollen is everywhere, so now I'm all stuffed and I can't breathe. So apologies, because I'll lose my voice throughout this, and so I'll keep drinking tea to try to remedy that. Anyway, not a whole lot that's changed from yesterday. One thing I will emphasize, though, Mercury square Saturn, it is time to pause before acting and consider all options and perspectives. Think outside the box. There could be some partnership issues with Venus. Let's see, Venus, what is it in? Okay, well, it's 12th house Gemini, but semi-square Saturn. But basically, I think it's that I think sometimes emotions get to be too much and you can't necessarily see the forest for the trees, and adaptability is less. And so right now, if you can at all wait before making decisions, if it just feels like, you're not going to get anywhere in the conversation, you likely aren't. But it's not because they don't want to find a solution. It's just because emotionally they're just not in the headspace where they can do that. One thing though, Venus semi-square Lilith, we're talking instinct there. So, if instinct tells you to back off, because that something isn't right. And Lilith will tend to, go all in and get all, killing Eve on everybody. And so, I love that show. Killing Eve might be my favorite show. I don't know. At least right now. Northern Exposure was my favorite show at one point because I grew up in Alaska, but I'll tell, and even though it wasn't filmed there, but still, I loved it, but now I don't know what it is. Killing Eve is it's just incredible. It's just incredible. So the acting is they couldn't have gotten a better cast. It's just perfect. So anyway, it's like watching Lilith in action, and I'm not sure which one is Lilith, really. It could be either one of the women, or it could be the boss lady. It could be her. But anyway, one other thing, Saturn, eighth house Aquarius, you're going to think outside the box with Aquarian energy, but regarding the eighth house, anything having to do with joint endeavors, particularly finances, again, you're just going to want to pause a little bit. If you don't have to make a decision today, don't. Just wait. Make sure you have all the information you need. Make sure everybody's emotions are settled on it, and then you should do okay. So anyhow, let's go ahead and get started with the reading. Let me scroll back up here. And we'll take our first three cards. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. And what I do here is I'll take three cards. I take the 13th one each time for randomness sake. If we need a fourth card, we'll do one. Yesterday we took a fifth. So we'll see. And then we'll do a rune from the Elder Futhark, and we'll close out with the Geomancy rune. So let's go ahead and take our first three cards. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about each one as I put them down. I'm going to do it together at the same time. So I'm getting a lot of major cards. This is the Nine of Pentacles, though. I love this card. Although I'm not a woman of wealth, it reminds me of me in the garden when I'm just, looking around. And I don't know if any of you do that. I have 5 acres, though. So for me, walking about the garden is actually a very large space. We actually divided the property into two main sections. The lower section has pasture in it, but mostly it's garden space, it's living space, it's defined space that's been landscaped, and it's really park-like in this area, in this part of it, in the compound. We just call it the compound. The other section is a big pasture, but so when I walk about, when I go on walkabout in the compound, it's really taking a stroll through a park, and you get to, because there's little ecosystems everywhere, but they sort of all align together, even though they're different spaces. But truly, it's like little different ecosystems all throughout the whole area. There's 2 big ponds, and I mean big ponds, massive ponds. Not just little tiny things, but, small lakes. And there's fish in them, and ducks, and we have all kinds of, we don't own the ducks. They're wild, but they think they own us, but I don't know. Anyway. But there's catfish in the pond and goldfish that have essentially to return back to their carp state. And so, but sometimes you'll see, orange around there, hanging around with the, you'll see some that are still got orange on them. Some look like calico cats. It's just amazing. Their coloring is so cool. But see, they start to change, from being orange to, they start getting some black on them and all of that. So I don't know. But that's what this reminds me of, is doing walkabout around our compound area. but not with the flowing robes or anything, or with the falcon on my hand. Well, here we have the Eight of Pentacles. So I think what I'm going to do, well, I'm going to put him first. So that gives us an 8 and a 9. So it'd be cool if we got a 7 of Pentacles, wouldn't it? But right now we're looking at issues of foundation and financial security and home and hearth. What progress we're making there with respect to taking care of ourselves during the pandemic. That it's all about that sort of thing, tradition, the Akashic record, all of that. Because there may be some new traditions that come out of this, at least for, you know, the next couple of years till we figure out what's going on. Here we have the Queen of Swords. I'm going to put her up in the top here as a significator. But again, we may be choosing some new traditions. We may be continuing for the foreseeable future. Even if we don't wear masks, we may continue to go into the grocery stores wearing gloves. We may continue the procedures of wiping things down or spraying them down before we bring them into the house until we see what in the final analysis, what this whole virus really is. And I think it makes sense to do that. That's what we'll be doing, you know, with our issues. We're old now. And so for us, it doesn't make sense to just, you know, head out to the beach as people are doing and hang out with 1.5 million people. It just doesn't make sense for us to do that. So likely for the foreseeable future until we know more or have more therapeutics or have any therapeutics, not more, but any, until we find out what this is really about, we really need to just sort of err on the side of caution, at least in my opinion. So we're going to start with the Queen, though. The Queen of Swords, air element. She raises her hand in offering. She's offering balance and justice and reason. You see clouds behind her. So basically what she's doing is she's cutting through the nonsense and through any kind of deception. They're not particularly dark. So it doesn't indicate real evil or dark forces at work, but it still says that hey, there's some stuff to cut through right now. She's the witch. She's the person who does not suffer fools gladly, as the saying goes. I mean, Crowley's Thoth Tarot version of this, let me get it. It is my favorite deck, by the way. I think I got all of it here. And I'll see if I can find it as I chat here. But the thing about Crowley has just totally reimagined these. Well, here it is right here. So that's cool. But here's Crowley's version of it. You see the Queen on her throne in the clouds. She's exhausted. She's spent. She's got her sword in one hand and the severed head of a lion, someone powerful in the other, and she's just, you know, there she is in all her glory. Hands down, my favorite card in the world. So anyway, that kind of shows you the energy of I don't need any more nonsense. So. And the other way that you can look at the Queen is in terms of the goddess presence that's here right now. You know, we've lived under the auspices of patriarchy for so long, where there's no balance between the genders. There's no balance in terms of polarity. We get this idea that there can only be certain people that can have wealth, certain people with power. The rest of us just have to suffer through, basically, and take whatever we can get, or accept and be grateful for whatever we can get. That's the reality of patriarchy. And that's the struggle that you see right now, especially playing out with this pandemic. You start to see where the president's son-in-law has decided that, he's going to run all this, right? And so suddenly, rumor has it he's in charge of the PPE supplies and the distribution. Well, if that's the case, why is he taking it from people? It's being confiscated. The VA has notified, and my husband's a veteran, so this is just terrifying. They've taken, the federal government has taken, FEMA has taken 5 million masks away from them. They had ordered them, they were coming, they confiscated them. So now VA hospitals and clinics don't have this stuff to protect the staff and patients with, right? They don't have it. So you have to ask yourself, what is this structure that we can no longer contend with? It's abusive. It takes power out of the hands of everyone and confers it onto a chosen few. And the problem is, it's one thing if you designate a group of people, okay, coordinate our response to this. All right. And everyone is paying attention and holding them accountable. If something's not working, they're going, hey, not working. Right. But that isn't what's happening here. And we don't know what's happening here. All we know is we're not getting what we need. And what we need to survive this. You listen to the stuff that's coming out of the nurses and doctors at these places. And it's sickening to listen to what they have to say, to listen to what they have to contend with when none of it had to happen this way. So you have to ask yourself, then why is it happening this way? Enter the Queen of Swords, who's going to cut through the crap of all of it and say, you know what? Here's what we need to be focused on. You look at the countries that are doing well, it's because they have female leaders who believe in science. Good night, nurse. Angela Merkel of Germany is a scientist. That's what she is. She's a PhD. She's a scientist. I don't know. And you can sit there and say, and the conspiracy people can say, oh, my goodness, right? We have to fear the scientists. They have an agenda. No, they just want us to live. So I'll take their agenda. Thank you very much. So that's the nonsense that the Queen of Swords is having to contend with right now. And what she's offering is balance and justice and truth and honesty. Getting up away from the clouds of deception and chaos and coming into alignment together and in shared purpose and a shared way forward based on facts, based on truth, and not the nonsense that's coming out of the guy in the Oval Office, so that we can get back to doing our craft. Right now, we're having to do whatever we have to do at home. If we're working at home, if we're able to do that, some of us aren't even able to do that, though. Some of us are just out of work. So whatever we do, cutting through the nonsense, cutting through the crap, letting truth be revealed, it's in service to getting back to work. And 8 energy is a level of leadership and a level of understanding that invokes spirit into the process. Think the spiritual warrior within. Does the spiritual warrior within go out and view this as fake news? Or does the spiritual warrior within say, oh, what do I need to know so that I can stay safe and keep everybody around me safe, so that that's what we transmit instead of the virus? Because that's really what this is doing. And then we can get back to strolling in our gardens once again. The 9 of Pentacles suggests being settled. She's settled in her garden. You can see her castle off there in the distance. You see all this abundance around her. But I will suggest to you, and I don't think we need a 4th card, I would suggest to you, though, that the true abundance that we've gained during this time is the relationships that we have carved out with one another, if they weren't already there. I saw a thing that there are things that make me cry now, and it's watching people who are helping others selflessly, just doing it. Potato growers in Idaho there was a news report, and I saw it before the news report. I saw it online. Massive pile of potatoes, right? And they're going to have to dump them because they can't get rid of them. Well, you give them to food banks, and if we had any kind of organized response from the federal government, that's what they would be doing. They would be letting people know publicly, sending out PSAs saying, listen, if you all have excess stuff, we want it, we need it, we're going to buy it from you, and we're going to distribute it to people, to food banks and whatnot. That's if we had anybody in the government who knew what they were doing. However, You have Governor Cuomo in New York, who essentially said that to the dairy farmers there. No, don't dump the milk, don't dump the sour cream. I want it. I'll buy it from you, and I'll distribute it around to the food banks, to everybody who needs them. The need is still there for the food, right? So they did that. Idaho, they had this big pile of potatoes, and I mean it was massive, and so people were going and getting them. And then eventually what we saw was this little picture of just a little handful of them, probably fit on my desk here. Not a whole lot left, there's still a little bit left for people, but not enough for people to converge, obviously. Maybe one person or two people or three people or something, take a grocery bag full, maybe. That's all there was left. Just in a short period of time, they got rid of it all. And they didn't have to throw it away. It didn't have to rot. There's food that's rotting that doesn't need to be. If the federal government, again, had done their job, seen this as their job to coordinate, even if it's about saying to states, okay, we have sent out this, we've let them know, we've all talked, we're all on the same page, you guys know what you need to do, here's what we're going to do, and this is, we're going to coordinate the response to this together so that the people growing food don't lose out and the people needing food don't starve. It's very simple, right? And what the reading is talking about today is a focus on cutting through the crap and the nonsense and the BS of what's going on and getting back down to taking care of our needs so that we can then, once we do that, get on the other side of this and get back to normal life. But to do that, we have to leave ego out of the equation and bring Kenaz, or the voice of spirit, the light of spirit, shining down and informing our way forward, our process forward. Kenaz is the torch. It's the 6th rune from the Elder Futhark. So we're talking higher self-energy. We're talking about shared purpose, but we're talking about lighting the way forward and doing it with the voice of spirit guiding us, and not the machinations of ego. In other words, what's going on now is criminal. And I would be willing to bet you that there will be prosecutions when all is said and done over what's happened here on the level of the federal government. Where did the supplies go? Where did everything from the stockpile go? Did they get sold to China to alleviate some of the debt he owes them personally? What happened to them? Something isn't right here. For us to be so far behind the curve on this. What's wrong? Who did what? So I think we're going to find out. And Kenaz is suggesting, this is a 22 year. So we're in an enlightenment year and an awakening year. To think that we're not going to know what's all said and when all is said and done, what went on here, of course we are. I guarantee you we're going to be sickened by it. Just sickened by it, to know how close we came to complete and utter annihilation. But I don't see it. I don't see that happening. I think that we're going to get it together. Oh, I almost blinded myself there. I love this thing though. It's an LED. You can see it's an LED magnifying glass, and so when you're looking at cards, you can really get the true detail of them. And it's really vital if you're looking at cards like from the Thoth Tarot or other really involved cards like that, because you can't see everything, especially if they're the smaller version of the cards. It really helps to have the bigger versions. But I have to tell you, when my RA was bad, I could not shuffle the cards. I just have to do this because I couldn't get my hands around them. So for the longest time, it was just tough. And I have quite a few sets of cards that are the bigger version. And it was just awful. I just couldn't do it. It was painful and my hands were swollen and I just couldn't shuffle very well. So I really had to, in fact, there were times I couldn't even shuffle the smaller ones. But right now, the geomancy rune is Cauda Draconis, or the tail of the dragon. It corresponds with the south node of the moon. So karma, the past. Now, its complement is Caput, or beginnings, or the north node of the moon, or the head of the dragon. But right now, we're dealing with endings. So it could be that you'll start to see some states start to open things up. We've been locked down now for at least a month. We've been in lockdown for oh gosh, today's the what, 28th. So I think we got the chickens, the last group of chickens we bought, the little babies, we bought those, I think, on February 22nd or 23rd. And over the course of the next week, we began shutting things down here. So we've actually been sheltering in place since then, I mean, if you want to say it that way, the beginning of March. So almost 2 months now for us. Although we really started, when we started seeing this coming out of China, we started reducing. We started gradually collecting supplies, and so we didn't have to do it all at once. And so it was just one of those things where we saw the writing on the wall right away, and we didn't ignore it. So I don't know. Maybe it's, I mean, I'm looking at it and the intuition's going off and the empath stuff's going off. And I was like, uh-oh. And I looked at my husband. He's like, what? And I said, well, here's what I think's coming. And so he started paying closer attention, and he pretty well decided the same. Because the White House knew. White House knew back in November. Don't let them tell you any different. They knew back in November. So maybe even October. So I don't know. But here's the thing about Kata draconis. Kata is thought to be, by old geomancers, to be too evil. If you draw that in your first throw here of the geomancy, however you're doing it, whether it's little stones or pebbles or peas or lentils or beans or whatever you're using, I made my own runes. So with 2 on one side and one dot on the other, coded to whatever, one of the 4 elements. They have to be placed in the order of fire, air, water, and earth. And so that's why I chose to do it that way. And this way I can throw them down, and it's either a single dot or a dual dot. Otherwise you're counting, and it's if it's an odd number, or if it's an odd number that you've counted, that's a single dot. If it's an even number, it's a dual dot. So I'm not going to do it that way. So I just made my own runes, because that's what I do. I made a set of hawthorn ones, just like these are hawthorn. They're my favorite ones. And so I made a set of hawthorn runes for my geomancy ones. And so anyway, but the idea, if you draw Kata draconis, Carcer, or Rubius, then the reading is supposedly too evil to continue. But I don't agree. I say that if we don't know, you work it out in the reading, right? I don't know why you'd stop, but they say, oh no, you have to destroy everything. This is not just that you end the reading. You have to destroy everything you're doing it with. And because it's just so, you've basically opened up a portal into evil. No, you haven't. You just haven't. So we can just not fuss about that. But the point is, anyway, that I think that, yesterday was a day of endings. Today is a day of beginnings. And so I think what we're seeing is maybe a shift, maybe in terms of perception. Last week, unfortunately, gave us some really interesting information to digest over the weekend. And rest assured, he did say what he said, and it was exactly as bad as it really was. They can try to rewrite history as much as they want to, but unfortunately, videotape doesn't go away, and especially when people download it. So someone's going to have it somewhere to re-upload and say, no, not so fast. Don't lie. Don't lie anymore to us, because that's all he's been doing is lying since he got there. Since before he got there. So basically, we need to see an ending to that type of response and a movement into something that's more devoted to the truth and into moving forward through this together in shared purpose, and not at loggerheads with one another, where you've got one person who wants to get in your face and the other person who's like, no, stay out of my face, right? We had to order some wiper blades for the little pickup, because of course every time we go out to take something for the tractor somewhere, it's raining, and these things, they're still there, but the ends are kind of flopping, and so you got this middle piece. It's ridiculous. I don't know how we didn't get stopped. It's like, oh my God. So we finally got these things yesterday, and the delivery guy brought them. And basically, he's telling him, Jerry, my husband says he had gloves on, but I didn't see him. But no mask, He comes through the gate. Instead of leaving it at the gate next to the freight box, we had just come up there to get some stuff out of the freight box, and we were heading down. We came back, and when we saw him, and we set them in the back of the pickup, because we thought, well, we're going to have more, so let's just take them all down in the pickup. And so instead of him setting them where he's supposed to at the freight box, oh no, he's got to walk clear over to us. I said, stop. That's far enough. Just drop it right there. He didn't. He kept going. He kept going. And so he dropped it on the other side of the pickup as I'm backing up, as my husband's backing up. It's like, dude, we just told you to stop. He didn't do that. So I tweeted to the company and to everyone, this was my experience today. I don't appreciate it. You know, if I tell you to stop, you better stop. It's that simple. You know, here's the thing. You don't know where you're at, right? You really don't. You happen to be on the property of people who used to teach karate, so we're both black belts. So if we tell you to stop, you might want to. I mean, you know, we have tremendous follow through. So I don't know. It makes no sense to me why anybody would do that. But good Lord, especially now. I don't know. It's like somebody clipped I don't know what it was, because I sprayed it down with alcohol. It was a little envelope. So someone gave us a note with a clothespin on our gate. It's a pandemic. Don't clip things to my gate. So I didn't have any gloves, or maybe I had one on or something, or maybe I had garden gloves or something. I don't know. I don't think I had on. Because we weren't up there for that, right? We noticed it. So, but I had my spray bottle with me, and because I just carry it with me now everywhere I go. And so I sprayed it down, and we took it off, and, you know, but by the time I could open it, I guess it was wet, and so it bled through, and I have no idea what that note said. So if anyone who's watching this wrote that note, don't do that again, please. If you don't know me well enough to call me on the phone, if you don't have my phone number, please don't do that. Don't clip a note to my fence. I'm not going to read it. I'm going to spray it down and leave it there. I'm not going to ever touch them again. This makes no sense to me. It's like we're in a pandemic. Don't introduce anything that could compromise someone that they don't know is happening, right? Had I known it was coming, I could have put my mask on, had gloves on, used my spray bottle, you know, and maybe opened it before with the gloves before I sprayed it. But I couldn't do that. So I lightly sprayed it, only more came out than I thought. And I thought, uh-oh. So I'm trying to open it, but it's too late. And I don't know who it was. So hopefully it was just somebody wishing us well, and not that they needed something, because I don't know what it is. And I'm not really in a position right now to do anything for anybody. So I don't know why anybody would ask, but, you know, at least, you know, it's better to know, right? But just don't, in other words, don't compromise people that way. It's weird. It was weird. I don't know. So anyway, that's what I've been coping with, and I don't even know how to cope with any of it anymore. I just throw my hands up. I go out and about, and nobody acts like that there's anything going on. So I don't know. That's why we stay on our 5 acres behind 3 lock gates. So anyway, thanks so much for coming by. This is a crazy, crazy time, and I don't even know anymore. So. But I figure if we can at least chat about the cards, you know, the thing about all of this is it seems to be suggesting, and has been for some time, that we're going to come out of this okay. I mean, there's going to be some that won't, obviously, but overall, I think we're going to come out maybe in a better place, at least in terms of how we interact with one another. Maybe we can start healing differences that were there. Likely due to the election, or at least fostered or brought out by the election. But, you know, maybe we can start to see some of those heal as time goes on now. I don't know. I'm one of those hopeful, optimistic people that I like to see the positive in things. And I think with the 22 year, I think, and also the fact that we're we're all basically waking up to who we are as spirit instead of these bodies and these personalities, that we're actually the soul force behind it. It sort of changes your opinions about things and your perceptions about things, especially if you were someone that just wasn't aware of that before. Suddenly, people are waking up to it. And if a pandemic can help us in that regard, then okay, then let it do that. Because when all is said and done, you know, yes, there's individual differences between all of us, but there's no reason why we can't understand the need to go forward together in healing. People's lives may be completely disrupted by all of this, particularly if the person who earns the most of the income or all of the income dies, then you're going to see a lot of change. And so with luck, we're going to embark on that journey together. And instead of, seeing everybody as the other, we see everybody as the other side of self. And so that's my hope, that when all of this is said and done, that we're moving in that direction. I won't say that we'll be there, but hopefully we'll be at least looking in that direction and considering that as the option. So in any event, thanks so much for coming by. Check out the blog. This will go up over there at imstemming-aside.com. I post this there too, and other places as well. I post it on Facebook and on Twitter and wherever I want. I have a Patreon account if you want to follow me over there. That's a paid site, but it's donation. I don't have any tiers set up. I also write over on Medium, so check out my stuff over there. Some stuff I cross post from the blog, but some stuff I just write for Medium, and so just over there you don't see it any other place. So check that out as well if you want. If you know about Medium, it's a very cool place for writers. And I guess that's it. Come back tomorrow and be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.